This is the plaintiff, Trudy Edwards. She claims as she was walking down the sidewalk in front of her home, the young defendant came riding towards her on his bicycle. And even though she moved out of his path, he still crashed into her, knocking her over and causing her months of unbearable pain. She's suing for $2,000 for medical bills and pain and suffering. This is the defendant, 9-year-old Richie Mango, and his father, Mark. He says he was riding on the sidewalk as his parents have instructed when the plaintiff suddenly came out from behind a brick wall and he couldn't avoid hitting her. He's accused of reckless driving. What you are witnessing is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in a California municipal court. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their court cases and have their dispute settled here in our forum, the People's Court.
Hi, I'm Doug Llewellyn, and welcome to the People's Court. This is the case of Sidelined on the Sidewalk. Now, the plaintiff says that not only was she badly bruised, but she is also very upset that the boy's hostile parents refused to pay her medical bills. The defendant's father insists that the accident wasn't his son's fault, and besides, he doesn't believe the woman was seriously hurt, and figures she just wants something for nothing. So let's find out more about this bike hits woman dispute as the litigants talk to Judge Wapner.
I know that you've been sworn. I have read your complaint, ma'am. You claim that the minor defendant... You have trouble hearing?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to hear what I said?
I
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm trying. Go ahead.
Look.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I want to be sure you hear me.
Okay.
My wife says that when I shout like this, I look angry. She doesn't want me to look angry. So
Well, nobody does.
Nobody does what? Like to look angry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You say he knocked you down on his bike?
He sure did.
Okay, where were you?
I was in front of my home. I came down off the porch.
Where is that?
It's in Anaheim, California.
You came off the porch.
And I walked down the sidewalk.
Down the sidewalk?
Yeah, there's a sidewalk in front of my house, and then there's a sidewalk on... Could I show you the chart,
Sure.
Your Honor?
This is your house?
Yes, sir.
You walked where? Down through?
That's the step there, and then I turned right.
Turn right, went down this way?
Yes.
And where was he? Where was the boy on the bike coming from? Coming from the other direction over here?
Yes, I was coming this way. You know, I came out of the house, and I turned this way, and he was coming this way.
Okay.
And
How wide is that sidewalk?
That's the only thing I didn't measure, Your Honor. I measured the length. The sidewalk, I think, is 36 inches.
Okay.
And,
how far did you walk before he struck you?
well, it was 7 feet from the end of the block fence. On the diagram there, you can see it.
Well, you walked approximately 8 feet before he hit you?
Yes.
Did you see him coming?
I saw him, and
Did you shout?
No.
What kind of a bike was he riding?
It's just a boy's bicycle.
I know, was it a two-wheeler?
Yes, sir. And when I saw
Did he
him...
appear to be looking in your direction?
I think he was.
What time of day or night was this?
It was 10 minutes after 12 on Sunday. And when
12 noon?
12 noon, sir.
And what?
And when I saw him coming, I was already next to the curb there, you know, walking on the inside of the sidewalk. And when I saw him...
Not the curb, then.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I was walking on the inside of the sidewalk. And then when I saw him coming at me, I thought he was going to go around me, which is a normal assumption. And so then I realized that he was coming at me. I put one foot back, to, you know, on the grass, And the next thing I knew, he hit me.
Richard,
Yes, Your Honor.
how old are you?
9.
When are you going to be 10?
And July 5th.
How long have you been riding a bike?
Well, I started riding a two-wheeler when I was about 6.
I think I'm going to have to raise my voice because I wanted to talk more softly to you than I did to her, but I just realized if I do that, she won't be able to hear me. So if I shout, you'll understand, won't you?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I want to show you this diagram. You look at it. Do you live in the area?
Well, not really. I live...
We live about 3 or 4 blocks away.
Well, that's what I mean by the area. She says that you were coming down the sidewalk on your bike,
Yes.
and she was walking toward you. Did you see her?
Well, no. When she was walking, right then when she turned, I hit her.
When she
didn't...
turned.
Yes, she walked out, then she turned, and then I hit her.
Can you tell from that diagram where she walked out from?
Yes.
Rusty, would you note that, please?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I have a few photographs that are a little more simpler that he understands.
Okay.
Photographs of that area?
Yes.
Well, she
Let me
was
see.
walking here,
Okay.
and then I was coming here, and she turned. Well, I was right here, and she turned, and I hit her, and I didn't have
Where,
the...
right here?
Yeah, she was right there,
Okay.
and I was right here at the time.
Okay, when you saw her,
I was
but you
right
hit
there.
her right here, huh?
I was right there.
Okay.
Richard, can you estimate for me how far away she was from the front of your bike when you first saw her? In other words, was it this far or this far or this far? Can you show me?
Well, it was about, like, this far.
Stop where you think it was. Don't just keep going.
Right here.
Okay. It's about 2 feet, I would say, 2.5 feet maybe.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
when he knocked me down, I fell real hard, and his bike went over, and he landed on the grass. And while I'm still laying there, he got up, picked up his bike like he was going to leave. And I said, well, aren't you going to help me? And he said, well, yes, I'll go get somebody and come back.
Did
Then
he come back
He come back about 10 minutes, well, approximately 10 minutes later.
with someone to help you?
With a lady, yes. Her statement is in there.
Were you on the grass or on the sidewalk the whole 10 minutes?
I was on the concrete, yes.
Until he came back?
Well, no, not exactly. I was on the concrete, and he left, and I laid there for a few minutes, and I was dazed yet. And I finally got up, and I went over, and my motorhome was at the curb there, and it was several feet back. Well, I don't know how many feet. And the door was open to the motorhome, so I went over there and sat down because, I was weak. And that's where our neighbor, came over to where I was sitting on the step.
Richard,
Yes, Your Honor.
did you see her at all before she turned the corner to start walking? Did you see her at all?
No.
And you're sure you were only about 3 feet away from her before you hit her?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Let's take a short recess. I'll come back and give you my decision.
Remain seated and come to order. This court is again in session.
These cases are very difficult because we have to determine who's at fault, really who's negligent. Sometimes there's contributory negligence. Both parties are at fault. Bicycles are subject to the same rules of the road as automobiles, except, of course, automobiles don't go on sidewalks. And that's why there are some jurisdictions in Southern California that don't even allow bicycles on sidewalks. There's nothing that I can find about Anaheim. The only thing I can find is that the general rule that pedestrians have the right of way over bicycles, and which means, in effect, they really have to be more careful when going on a sidewalk than pedestrians are, because pedestrians are always there walking, and bicycles should watch out for pedestrians more than pedestrians should watch out for bicycles. So I think he was negligent. The question is, was the plaintiff guilty of contributory negligence? I don't find any. She walked out of her door, she turned to the right, she says she took 7 steps or went up 7 feet, and that's when he hit her. There certainly was plenty of space for him to avoid her. Why he ran into her, I don't know. Unless he was driving along, looked at that block wall, and didn't see her in time to avoid. You were only 8 years old at the time, and you made a mistake. That doesn't mean you're a bad boy. I think you're a good young man. I think you've got a lot of promise. I think you're very bright, you're very respectful, and I like the way you handled yourself here. But you were negligent, in my opinion. And therefore, there has to be a judgment against you. And the amount that you're suing for, I think, is a reasonable amount. So the judgment is not going to be against the parent, because the parent's not responsible for the negligence of the child. Judgment is against the young man. $2,000.
So Judge Wapner finds for the plaintiff in this case, Richie Mango and his dad are on their way out of the courtroom. Richie, let me ask you, how do you feel about what Judge Wapner just had to say to you? He said some very nice things.
Well, I like what he said.
Except the part where he said she prevails for $2,000. You didn't like that, did you?
No, I didn't.
No, I'm not surprised there. But in any event, do you think you've learned anything from this experience? Do you think you could have been a little negligent driving that bike?
Well, yes, because if there's a wall like that, I guess I should have stopped and looked.
So you've learned something then. Well, that's good. I just wanted to ask you, did you feel that you really should offer to have paid her medical bills?
I just, from the story that Richie told me after the accident, I just didn't feel that, we could have done that much harm. He's not a very reckless rider, and, with the conditions of the wall and everything, I believe that he didn't see her until she was right up on him, and, it was a little late for an 8-year-old to react and push the brakes back and everything, and, I think it was negligence on both parts. But,
well, now that you've heard the judge's decision, how do you feel about it?
Well, riding on a sidewalk with a bicycle is illegal, but as a parent, any parent with children would rather them ride on the sidewalk than on the street, and, so.
And look what happened.
Well, if she was hurt, we're sorry for it, so.
Okay. Thank you very much. Officer Burrell has some documents you must sign. Now the plaintiff is on her way out of the courtroom. Ms. Edwards, if you'd step out, please.
Yes.
How do you feel about Judge Wapner's decision?
I'm sorry about the boy. I am. He's a nice little boy.
It does seem like a very nice young man.
Yes, very. But I had 6 months of pain, 4 months when I had infected scabs in my legs, and I'm just sorry the whole thing had happened.
I bet you'll look more carefully, too, when you go to walk out, won't you?
You better believe it.
All right, thank you very much. Officer Burrell is waiting for you, and that will bring this case to a close. The